Friday, October 17. If you have access to the book Patriarchs and Prophets either online or in print, it's suggested here for further thought that we read the chapter Crossing the Jordan, pages 483 and 484. But to start, we have a quote from the Seventh-day Adventist Bible Commentary, Volume 2, page 994, and this is in the Ellen G. White comments. Study carefully the experiences of Israel in their travels to Canaan. Study the 3rd and 4th chapters of Joshua, recording their preparation for and passage over the Jordan into the Promised Land. We need to keep the heart and mind in training by refreshing the memory with the lessons that the Lord taught his ancient people. Then, to us, as he designed it should be to them, the teachings of his word will ever be interesting and impressive. And then from the Testimonies to the Church, Volume 1, page 609, we read, Modern Israel are in greater danger of forgetting God and being led into idolatry than were ancient people. Many idols are worshipped even by professed Sabbath keepers. God especially charged his ancient people to guard against idolatry, for if they should be led away from serving the living God, his curse would rest upon them, while if they would love him with all their heart, with all their soul, and with all their might, he would abundantly bless them in basket and in store, and would remove sickness from the midst of them. End of quote. And that brings us to our 3 discussion questions for this week. 1. Discuss in your class the miraculous crossing of the Jordan. How would you define miracles? Why does it seem that God is not performing similar miracles today? And question 2, what practical ways can you suggest in your class for preventing spiritual forgetfulness, both as individuals or as a church? While it is important that we have an ongoing dynamic relationship with God and that we don't build our whole Christian experience on powerful past experiences, how can we still use our past experiences as reminders of how God has worked in our lives? And question 3. How do you think the Sabbath can, on the one hand, help us remember God's interventions in our lives, and on the other, give us a foretaste of the promised rest in his kingdom? How does the Sabbath point not only to what we are supposed to remember, but to what we can hope for in the future?
For further reading, Our High Calling, More, July 1, page 188. And This Day with God, Peace in His Presence, February 19, page 58.
Trail of Tears and Sweatshirts by Andrew McChesney. Tsitsi Zondo couldn't believe her eyes. It was a dark night in Zimbabwe, but she could see her precious cargo of sweatshirts strewn across the highway and the dim figures of people scurrying to take them away. Tears filled her eyes. She had borrowed money to buy the sweatshirts in South Africa and now wouldn't be able to repay the loan. She had nothing. How would she provide for her children? She prayed, Lord, you know that I've been struggling to make my business successful, and now this has happened. Out of all the bags, my bag is the only one that opened. Tsitsi had packed 60 sweatshirts into a large bag and stowed it on the roof of a minibus for the trip from Zimbabwe's border with South Africa to her hometown Bulawayo. But halfway into the journey, a passenger had gotten off the minibus and, in looking for her bag, the driver had opened and closed several bags on the minibus's roof. Somehow, Tsitsi's bag hadn't been closed. The minibus had resumed its journey and, after travelling some distance, stopped at the flashing of car lights. The car's driver said the minibus had been dropping sweatshirts ever since the passenger had gotten off. Tsitsi saw to her horror that only 10 sweatshirts remained in her bag. The minibus driver knew that he was responsible, but raised his hands helplessly. I'm sorry, he told Tsitsi. I just don't have the money. After praying, Tsitsi wiped away her tears. She had always been faithful in returning tithe and giving offerings on the wares that she imported from the South Africa, and she was sure that God would care for her. In Bulawayo, friends heard about Tsitsi's situation and came over to pray. One friend offered her a loan to return to South Africa and buy more sweatshirts. Tsitsi accepted the money as an answer to prayer and returned to South Africa. With the new sweatshirt, she was able to deliver on all of the original sweatshirt orders. It took a total of 4 trips to South Africa to repay the 2 loans. But during that time, Tsitsi always had enough money for food and family expenses. She also kept returning tithe and offerings. Tsitsi doesn't understand how God works, but she has no doubt that He always provides. Even when I had lost everything, my family and I never went hungry, she said. We always had food on the table. If you are faithful and you give to the Lord in tithe and offerings, the Lord will always come through for you. You can listen to a short YouTube video of Tsitsi Zondo at bit.ly, Tsitsi with a capital T, and Tsitsi is spelt with Tsitsi.
And remember, God is always faithful.